Hello, hello. A good afternoon to everyone and welcome in. Thank you so much for joining us on this webinar, Empowering Developers to Create Innovative XR Experiences. I'm your host, Charmaine E, and I'm so happy you could join us this afternoon. We'd just like to inform you that the webinar will be recorded and that your microphones are automatically set on mute throughout the session. I love that everybody is chiming in on the Zoom chat as well. Please keep them coming. We most definitely welcome questions during the Q&A segment. And in fact, you may submit them anytime throughout the presentations on the Q&A platform. Once again, should you encounter any technical issues, please reach out to our team throughout the Zoom chat function. You can do so via that function. So in this webinar, we will be learning about how delivering innovative immersive experiences is critical in today's phygital world. The metaverse is becoming a reality for both consumers and enterprises to reinvent user experiences and products or enhance back-of-house operations. We will hear from industry experts and users who will tell you more about its impact and how it's done. Our very first speaker is Steve Lucas. He is a director of product management for Qualcomm Technologies, where he manages the technical areas of developer relations for Qualcomm's augmented reality ecosystem. Steve has got 9 years of experience in the XR industry, starting with investment diligence at Qualcomm Ventures, running his own AR/VR startup, and managing the developer ecosystem at Magic Leap. He drove the development and release of the Mixed Reality Toolkit plugin for Magic Leap and co-edited the O'Reilly publication, Creating Augmented and Virtual Realities. Here to share more on the future of AR, please join me in welcoming Steve Lucas. Steve, stage is all yours. Over to you.
No, it's great to be here. It's great to have everybody here in the chat. It's wonderful seeing all the participants and really appreciate you all joining us today. I'm going to share my screen and let's make sure I'm sharing the sound. We'd love to share your presentation with what we've been doing at Qualcomm. All right, so we're presenting today Snapdragon Spaces, which is the future of augmented and virtual reality over at Qualcomm. Again, I'm a director of XR product management, and let me get through the slides. There we go. All right, so one thing you may not be familiar with Qualcomm Technologies, but what we do is we enable the XR industry in a variety of ways. You may be familiar with our chips. There's various new chips, XR chips, very specific for XR products. The XR1 platform, Gen 1, XR2, Gen 1, and the XR2 Gen 1 platforms. And so these chips are hardware that we use to power like CPUs and also GPUs that go into our XR headsets. But it's not just hardware. We also have our own teams building software algorithms that take the raw input from the sensors and do all the calculations to do things like 6-stop and SLAM, image, object recognition and tracking, and just a variety of perception algorithms to really scan and recognize the real world and then be able to digitize an internal understanding of it so that it can deliver XR experiences. What we've typically done is taken these hardware and software combinations and put them into reference designs. And so those are, you could say, a blueprint reference that we give to our OEMs, and then they will create the end user products that you're very familiar with that end up on the store shelves. What we're doing now, though, is we're taking all of that software intelligence, and instead of handing it straight to OEMs and branching it out, then we're actually sitting in the middle with our Snapdragon Spaces software SDK. And through this, then we believe what we can do is really build out an ecosystem through Snapdragon Spaces where we work directly with the developer, and then they can tap into multiple platforms and really accelerate the development of the space. So we start off as an augmented reality platform. When we first launch, you'll see a pair of glasses connected with a cable to a mobile phone. And these are the experiences, the form factor that we launched with last summer as our initial form factor to really show the first step in building Snapdragon Spaces products. And we built this on 3 pillars. The technology and innovation of the history of what we've been building in perception algorithms, and with all of XR's history of mobile technology from Qualcomm, then we build on top of that, and then we said we really wanted to do is create an open cross-device ecosystem. And when we say an open, we've really committed to an open platform, building with open standards. With a lot of platforms up until recently, then a lot of platforms were building their own customized way of rendering graphics to the headset, their own ways of pulling in pose and tracking information. But with OpenXR, then there is now an API specification that many platforms are adhering to make it much easier for developers to build on the same common APIs. So it makes the development of applications much quicker and more consistent across platforms. And the last pillar is a developer-first platform. What we're doing here is getting even closer to the developer. So instead of just working with the OEMs, we are working also with the developer ecosystem so that we can get developer feedback and improve our product through better algorithms for more features that are custom to what a developer is looking for, and really be a good citizen in building out this XR ecosystem. What we have here is a concept video showing what will people do with XR around their home every day. You know, it's not all immersing yourself in virtual worlds. It's also augmenting the world around you and bringing up panels of information, being able to see more of augmentations over the real world to have a better understanding of the environment around you. And all of the little details that you can use with perception, such as plane detection, being able to anchor content to surfaces, be able to augment images, and be able to have virtual try-ons, for example, like this, which also recognizes hand tracking to an extent. And this is object recognition and tracking. This is more of a future feature, but this concept here leverages the phone as a controller and lets you control this remote control car, which is hitting all kinds of virtual objects and having a virtual track. And here it's saying, you know, with multiplayer experiences, you can have an even bigger screen than the big TV on the wall and be able to really use the remote. So these are the concepts of what we see coming through Snapdragon Spaces. These are our initial perception features: positional tracking, image recognition and tracking, hand tracking, local anchors and persistence, plane detection, spatial mapping and meshing, and occlusion. So all of these features are now available with our Snapdragon Spaces SDK on our unique form factors. And a little history of what we've done with our ecosystem as we've started. Then we announced at AWE 2021 in November of about 15 months ago. And we announced our early access program where we started with a handful of developers and said, please work on our platform, try out our early hardware, and just let us know how we can improve and just be really smarter about how we deliver software to you as a developer. And then we brought in T-Mobile, and they came on site, and we did a small little workshop, and where we got a number of developers working on different applications and having some really early versions of their apps that we could play with. And then we announced the $100 million Snapdragon Metaverse Fund, along with our first venture partners, Echo 3D and Trip, who we put some investment in. And the Metaverse Fund is a collaboration with Qualcomm Ventures as well. Then we announced our first Pathfinder program. This is a program that supports developers through a variety of means, such as some small grants or through hardware. And working with these developers, then we really start to get good feedback on how we can improve and how we can optimize our algorithms even further. Then in June, we announced that Snapdragon Spaces was available to everyone to be able to purchase a hardware development kit and work with our initial partners, which were Motorola and Lenovo. So our first form factor is the Motorola Edge Plus, or the Edge 30 Pro, along with Lenovo Think Reality A3 glasses, which are augmented reality glasses. Later that summer, we did work with Hurom, the tech incubator of T-Mobile over in Europe, and we worked with another handful of partners. And we then went to the T-Mobile Accelerator up in Seattle in Washington State in the United States, and worked with another set of partners. Now, the developers we're targeting, what we're doing with Snapdragon Spaces, because it uses OpenXR, then there's a number of ways we can bring developers from all the different XR platforms to Snapdragon Spaces. Some of the simple ones, and that are very straightforward, are VR and head-worn AR. With VR, then there's a background that we can remove and be able to still use spatial content and adapt the controls. Head-worn AR, very similar. A lot of head-worn AR translates extremely well over to Snapdragon Spaces because the form factor is practically identical with 6 degrees of freedom of movement. It's just the control inputs might change. If we're going from hand tracking to hand tracking, then it's very straightforward. The other two types of developers we're targeting are mobile AR and just standard mobile developers. And what we'd like to see is with mobile AR, there's already a full 2D form factor on the phone. And what you're able to do is take that AR type of content with a tracked camera and move that from the phone into the headset. So now you can still use the phone as an input, but then actually move all of the digital immersion into the headset so you can walk around and really experience that content in the real world. And there's also mobile 2D augmentation, and that comes with takes certain forms, and that's a little beyond the scope of today's presentation, but we make it really easy to take 2D applications and move them into Snapdragon Spaces by adding an immersive camera. But again, that's going beyond the scope of today's presentation. And so we're really looking at anyone building content, whether it's XR or pure mobile. And so you can download this Snapdragon Spaces developer kit and read all our documentation today at spaces.qualcomm.com. And again, our initial form factor is the Motorola Edge 30 Pro internationally and Lenovo A3 glasses. But we want to go further. And what we've announced last year is our wireless AR smart viewer reference design. And what's nice about this is getting rid of the cable and being able to use high definition Wi-Fi in order to have the same experiences that you build on tethered headset, but be able to actually walk around, leave your phone on the table, and really walk around hands-free, and it's a really, really wonderful experience. And it is powered by the Snapdragon XR2 platform. It's a thinner profile, and it's got dual 1080p displays at 90 hertz. Beyond that, beyond AR, what we also announced last year is that we are moving into VR and MR. And what that means is that Snapdragon Spaces will be supporting not only AR headsets, but VR and MR headsets using the same SDK. And in some cases, depending on how you build your app, you can even use the same app that you've built for one headset should be able to run on the other headsets form factors as well, which is just a really nice innovation, because right now, or as in the early dawn of AR and VR, the in current generation, we've seen a lot of fragmentation across the platforms, and with open XR and open platforms, then a lot of that fragmentation is starting to go away, and it's really nice to see. This is an example of a simple application. This is purely done in our labs, but it's just to show that the same application, what it looks like in an AR headset, where you're seeing the field of view in the center, and you're seeing the cubes, but everything else is transparent all around you. You get to see the real world. And then on the right, you'll see the MR headset, which is passed through AR, and you're able to see identical content running the same application in both headsets. Now, the portability I mentioned earlier with OpenXR is that OpenXR defines a standard set of application interfaces. I like to think of it like a universal power adapter when you travel internationally, because what you're really needing to do is have all these different platforms be able to speak the same language, and all of the software be able to also speak the same language. So standardized platform or standardized software can request for tracking information or be able to render, and it just speaks the same language through the OpenXR APIs, and then can communicate to a variety of headsets that support OpenXR. And the architecture of Spaces, it's a downloadable APK. If you're familiar with the Spaces or the AR Core Services architecture, then AR Core Services used an APK running onto an Android phone, and what it did was it allowed AR Core apps to get their perception features through AR Core Services, and all of that intelligence was sitting inside an APK that you installed onto your phone. Now, in a very similar vein, we have Snapdragon Spaces Services as a downloadable APK that we provide to our developers, which has our runtime compositor extensions and perception services that are enabled on Spaces-ready phones. And so when you write your applications, then they will be talking to an OpenXR runtime that is deployed as an APK. And the way we do this is with Unity AR Foundation, and AR Foundation has defined a standardized set of APIs, and that works with an OpenXR plugin from Unity, and it's very simple to enable these with AR Foundation, and using those same standardized APIs and documentation, then existing projects that already use OpenXR and AR Foundation can migrate over with, in some cases, no code changes at all. Here's one of the input form factors is a 3 degrees of freedom controller using the phone. It doesn't use any tracking or positional tracking, so it is purely 3DOF, and that's where you'll see it's not completely one-to-one, but it's very similar to the early Gear VR and Daydream control interfaces. So we have a touchpad and a menu button available as the control interface. And we call it the companion controller. Additionally, we also have support for MRTK3 from Microsoft. We announced this partnership late last year. And what we have here is the ability to use hand tracking. Our hand tracking that's included with Snapdragon Spaces is now able to interface with MRTK user input. And so you'll see here that this is a very simple application that was written in just a couple of days, where this cute bird will then recognize hand tracking and land on the user's hands. And what we have here is just another video showing what some of these applications would look like. And so these applications span a variety of original applications built for Snapdragon Spaces, ones that were ported over from virtual reality as well as ones that were originally designed to be pure mobile apps, but then brought into 3D XR. And some of these are controlled using the phone controller, some of these using the gyroscope, some are using the user's head tilt in order to control the direction of the movement. For example, with the dragon that you're seeing flying around, and as the user turns their head, and the dragon follows in that direction. So to get started again, just go to space.qualcomm.com, register, download the SDK, and then purchase some hardware, and you'll be able to get started very quickly. What we like about this is it's very lightweight. It's very easy to be able to take this. I've even spent time using it on a plane, for example, and it's very easy to carry. And really, with all of the OpenXR interfaces and AR Foundation and the Unity and Unreal Engine plugins, it's very, very easy to get started today. And that's how we see more developers being able to work very simply with augmented reality and bring it to market. And we also have a Discord server, so you can join our community there and interact with, engage with people from Qualcomm as well as other members of the community. And one of the things we love about being Qualcomm and where we sit in the ecosystem is working with a variety of partners, like such as Microsoft, such as Unity, such as Unreal Engine, or Epic Games, and Lenovo, Motorola that you've seen in this presentation. But also another one who we have here today is Niantic. And but for that, I'm going to defer to leave you a little teaser that you're going to have an exciting presentation coming up from Joel. With that, I want to say thank you, and I'm open for any questions you may have.
Thank you so much, Steve. Really insightful sharing. We've got that exciting Q&A segment. So once again, now's the time. If you've got questions for Steve, to please type them in the Q&A function tab here right within Zoom. I think, Steve, we can kick off. We've got a couple of questions all set for you. The first one coming through from Melvin. Melvin Cheng, who says, hey, Steve, when is 5G needed or not needed for AR? And what are the 5G AR use cases for government? Thank you.
Oh, it's a great question. So 5G use cases are typically the ones that leverage a lot of, are high, typically the way we think of 5G is that it's for really high bandwidth use cases by being able to use like 4K streaming and more intense content, right? Because you're going to need a lot of data. And when we see that, then what we like about XR is that for good visual fidelity, you really want to get as much of a good volumetric capture as possible when you're seeing high resolution, high fidelity streaming. And for those, if you want to get high resolution detail, then that's typically where a good 5G use cases would come into play.
Okay, if you have more questions, feel free to type that in. But just a question from what I observed during the session as well. You were sharing more about the wireless AR smart viewer. I'm curious to know, development-wise, what's the future of that? It's just moving so quickly. So I'm curious to know what else is being worked on.
Well, let's see. I have to remember what I can say and what I can't. But
I was about to say, yeah.
Yeah. And what's exciting being where we are here in Qualcomm is just we're seeing the near future and internally the far future of where we're going with XR. And actually I was at Qualcomm much earlier in my career when things were just starting, and we saw VR, and we took it into Qualcomm and said, look, the future of VR is mobile, and mobile is where Qualcomm shines, is where we know that's our space. So when we could tell way back in 2015, 2016 that everything was going to move to as pure mobile as possible, and where we would cut the cord, and we would get, even now with the phone connected to the glasses, then we're going to remove the cord there. Where else are we going to remove the cord? What other things could you see wirelessly communicating on our person right? Besides our head, our glasses, where else can you see that? And so without being able to reveal much, then I would like to say just you can draw your own conclusions as to how pure mobile then these experiences are going to get.
Okay, thank you for sharing what you can. Appreciate it. I believe those are all the questions that we've got for now. What would be the best way perhaps to reach you?
Well, spaces.qualcomm.com has a lot of information on how to reach out to our forums and connect. I'm also on Twitter at SLUKAS at Slukas, and you'll see me talk about XR over there a lot, and also available on LinkedIn.
We actually have a question that just came through from Hisyam. Hopefully I'm doing your name right. Hisyam MS. How's the current impact on the SME market?
Impact on the SME market. I'm not really sure how to answer that question. Could you rephrase it?
No, I think that's how I think the current impact of all the technology that you mentioned, perhaps everything from the VR, the headworm AR, the mobile AR. How do you think that might change maybe the SME scene? Do you think that if I'm reading into that, maybe Hisyam, you can also clarify what the question may be?
Yeah, and just okay, the VR AR scene. How is the current impact? Well, right now you'll see that the current economy is very interesting, and we're seeing a lot of I would say recalibration on what exactly is hot, what's exciting, how many people are interested in immersive worlds, and I think we're going to start seeing a conversation start to go more towards co-presence in the real world. I know we've seen a lot of co-presence in the virtual world. I think we've already had that conversation and being able to start seeing that a lot, which is really exciting. It's a good future. But then co-presence in the real world is one thing that we're going to see, and I think we might even touch upon that with Joel. And the other thing that I'm seeing more of is an interest in what I call the personal metaverse, or the practical metaverse around us, where you see more personal usage of being able to augment things, whether or not you're immersed in a global world or a persistent world, but just being able to think about how you use XR to augment the elements around you, whether it be cooking around in the kitchen or just getting your day-to-day planners, or get your news notifications and things like that, where you're going to start to see XR come in like small fun ways that are very enhancing to your life.
Thank you. Okay, now we've got more questions coming through.
Okay.
From Edgar, hopefully I'm saying your name right, how does it differentiate from Meta's VR Quest product?
It's a good question. So the Meta's Quest product is also one that we are very excited about, and we have some. Let's see, I believe there's a lot of public knowledge, but we do like the Meta Quest product. And what you'll see is a variety of let me rewind. So the beautiful thing about XR is that I wouldn't think of XR as one headset. I need one headset. I've heard that a lot, but really, I don't just need one pair of shoes, and I don't just need one pair of sunglasses. What I do is what we see is a variety of platforms and headsets that are coming from different manufacturers. I might need, let's go back to shoes. I need hiking shoes, work boots, sandals, right? For different purposes, I would use different shoes or different headsets for different purposes. So I could see more industrial headsets, and could see more lightweight ones, some that are maybe lower power and longer battery life, and some that would be the inverse because they need more heavy duty. So what you'll see is a variety of headsets that lean in on different attributes. And what would be different from the Quest? Quest Pro has a very different form factor from the Quest. So you're going to see different headsets like that coming out from our partners.
Amazing. Thank you so much for answering those, Steve. And thank you for your time today. If you'd like to reach out to our speakers, you can always reach out to the guys at IMDA Pixel. They'd be very happy to link you up. Thanks again for your time, Steve. Appreciate it.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Now, moving on to our next speaker, we've got Joel Udwin, and Joel Udwin is a group product manager working on Niantic's web AR platform, Eighth Wall. Before joining Niantic, Joel led the product team at Paytronics, a SaaS platform specializing in marketing technology for retail. At Niantic, Joel loves finding practical use cases for augmented reality at the intersection of marketing and technology. Without further ado, please allow me to hand the time over to Joel, who will start his sharing on building real-world metaverses. Joel, over to you.
Thank you so much for that introduction, Charmaine, and thank you, IMDA, for hosting us today. Okay, so as part of building real-world metaverses, I'm going to take everyone through an introduction to Eighth Wall and why developing on the web and developing augmented reality and other metaverse content on the web is so powerful. So we'll go through a quick introduction. We'll look at some examples of Eighth Wall content built on the Eighth Wall platform in the APAC region. We'll talk about some Eighth Wall platform features. We'll talk about the community and ecosystem that's available to support you on your journey to build for the metaverse on the web. And we'll go then into our open Q&A. At Eighth Wall, we believe that augmented reality is for everyone. We're breaking barriers between the digital and the physical and bridging the development gap between iOS and Android so that anyone can experience the magic of AR, no matter what device they're on, no app required. At Eighth Wall, we care deeply about creating the tools developers, brands, and agencies need to make immersive web content everyone can enjoy. And everyone really is enjoying web AR content. The Eighth Wall platform via the web is available on over 5 billion smartphones, and there have been 60,000 plus projects published on the platform with 2,000 commercial experiences, all with no app required to download. And this scale is possible because of the web. The web is cross-device. You can access it on your phone, on your computer, on your AR/VR headset, in the center console of your Tesla even. It's friction-free. There's no app required to download it. The web is open, like the open nature of the web, since its inception. And that means you can have powerful integrations of third-party APIs, libraries, and all that other great existing web content. It's instant. You can launch and update on your schedule. You don't need to deploy to any app store, go through any review cycles or anything like that. And all of that put together enables powerful, rich, interactive AR in the browser. And developers have been leveraging the power of web AR to create incredible experiences across industry verticals for top brands. And we'll dive into a little bit of some of these examples a little bit later. At a high level, Eighth Wall is composed of our Eighth Wall engine, which is the proprietary computer vision that includes things like SLAM, simultaneous localization and mapping for world effects and placing objects in your world, things like face effects, Lightship VPS, image target, and more. And we'll dive into all those different elements in a moment. It also includes our cloud editor, which is our purpose-built development platform to make it really easy to build web AR experiences, built-in hosting so that you can deploy web AR experiences across the globe, and it's really optimized for accessing web AR experiences on all devices. And then we have a lot of different ways of discovering and distributing web AR content, including embeddable AR ads and inline AR. So taking existing web AR content that you've built and embedding it either in your own owned website or own Medium channel, or embedding it as an ad in other publishers' websites. We have metaversal deployment, where you can build once for mobile AR and deploy to any number of devices, whether it's AR, VR headset, a desktop computer, or more. And then on Eighth Wall, we also have public profiles where you can publish your activity, what you're building. You can publish if you had a commercial experience, you can kind of reference that from the past, even though it's no longer live, as well as just show people what you're working on and demoing. And it's a great way to be discovered in the XR community. Eighth Wall's platform really serves as the powerful tool to power the majority of the AR content on the web today. From watching the tiniest wrapper perform on a burger, to activating the top of a Pizza Hut box and playing Pac-Man on it, to trying on the latest fashion, web AR is turning the ordinary into the extraordinary and engaging consumers with meaningful interactive content. And web AR is demonstrating measurable success across the marketing funnel. So why are brands so excited about developing for web AR? It's because they're seeing value and seeing return on investment today. And so we've seen that some campaigns built on Eighth Wall have seen users engaging for 5 minutes or more in the web AR experience. They've seen an 18% conversion rate. And then even one example of AR-enabled retail saw a 4x increase in sales for items that were enabled for AR try-on versus items that were not enabled for AR try-on. So really powerful, compelling business cases for using web AR in everyday customer interactions. And we're seeing meaningful uses for advertising, for AR in advertising, marketing, and retail with impact across industries. So just as an example here, we're seeing some of the major brands that have used the Eighth Wall platform for AR for fashion. And just in this example, we're seeing on the right, this is a volumetric video capture from Crescent Studios in Japan. And this was a virtual runway for Anai, where they took their web AR models that they had captured in volumetric video and brought the clothing to life. So you could really see, how does it flow? How does it, move when it's on someone's body, and really get that full view of an experience of this product before you add it to cart. And just as an example, another example, we've had Kate, which is another fashion brand, saw a 4x increase in shoe sales when they enabled their lookbook with web AR, so that you could really see the products in context in a similar way to what we're seeing with Anai here. We've also seen a lot of use cases for AR in food and beverage. So this is an example of Domino's Pizza, where they were really wanted to showcase their premium World 10 cheese pizza. So kind of giving information about cheese from around the world. And we're seeing AR in food and beverage used across the industry. So a little bit earlier, we saw that wrapper on top of the Burger King burger. That was Tiny Tempa, who was singing his song Whoppa on top of a Whopper. These types of meaningful engagements, that was during the pandemic, at the height of the pandemic. And that was a private concert when there were no public concerts, right? And so that created a really cultural moment that got people really excited about both the song, the artist, and Burger King, and actually resulted in 10.8 million social impressions, as well as 220 individual pieces of media coverage across the globe. And then we're also seeing AR for music. The example that we're seeing on the video here was an activation done with Sam Smith and Spotify. So it took their Spotify art cover and allowed them to sort of burst through it for their new song. And we've also seen examples like Pink Floyd, which released sort of an anniversary album, bring their colorful visuals of their album covers to life using web AR as a unique sort of experience for big fans of Pink Floyd. And in the first week alone, that resulted in tens of thousands of users across 140 countries trying it, with an average dwell time of around 2 minutes. So these are creating meaningful engagements with brands. And people are really excited about it, right? We see the momentum. We see people want to engage with the brands they love in new ways. And so if you're looking for more inspiration about what you can do with web AR, I encourage you to head over to eighthwall.com. That has a discovery hub there. You can just press view all or discover. And there's an unlimited amount of projects where you can look through and get ideas and case studies and thoughts on what people are doing. This is both from brands and agencies, as well as from indie developers who want to showcase the work that they're working on. So that was a brief introduction of Eighth Wall. I'm going to go through some examples. We're going to dive into some examples of Eighth Wall experiences built in the APAC region. So first we have Unilever's AHC brand, which is a Southeast Asian brand. And they wanted to find a new way to engage consumers with a focus on the in-store experience. So they worked with the agency Arcade to create beautiful bubbles from AHC's brand and turn them into fun, immersive game for consumers to enjoy. So they used a combination of face effects and world effects to create bubble popping experience that allowed users to compete and post their scores in 5 rollout markets: Singapore, Vietnam, Philippines, Malaysia, and Indonesia. And they also worked with local retailers to, at the end of the experience, offer coupons to bring people from the AR experience into store, right? And actually convert them fully into purchases and possibly make them loyal customers of a certain physical location, a retailer. You can actually try out the experience for anyone who wants by scanning this QR code on the screen. I'll give everyone a moment in case they wanted to scan. So this was an example of face effects, and they also used world effects. This is another example created by Mawari for Sapporo beer. This was an image target where you point your phone at the Sapporo Star Black label, and it created this amazing 3D model of Shibuya in Japan. And if you kind of like interact with the model and go in, you'll see lots of Sapporo advertising, as well as celebrity messages around Sapporo and the brand. So that's an example that I wanted to showcase of image targets. That's an example of image targets. And in fact, it's actually an example of curved image targets, because that's a curved surface, right? The labels on a curved surface when it's being detected. You can also scan this example. This is a currently live experience created by Starbucks Japan to celebrate Sakura season. So this experience is a world effect where you can place a cherry blossom tree, and hopefully the barista isn't super shy and appears out from behind the tree eventually. But this is celebrating the latest Sakura season, and there's like a social component where you can share with friends. And this QR code is printed on all Starbucks receipts in Japan right now. This is another example of image targets. These are planar or flat image targets. It was created by Powster to celebrate some of Netflix's anime. And so they created basically 3 different microsite experiences depending on the image target that was detected to elevate and celebrate some of the anime that they have on their platform. And then just one more example of a world effect. And again, you can scan this QR code to try it out. This is actually, not a consumer brand. This is the Hong Kong XR Museum. And the Hong Kong XR Museum created this Hong Kong newspaper stall where you can learn about the history of Hong Kong newspaper stalls over time. And so it's an educational type of experience, and it's part of a series of experiences they did using world effects to teach people about some history in Hong Kong. Okay, I'll give everyone a moment to scan that too. I don't want to go too fast and people miss the scanning. Awesome. So that was just a few different examples. We saw face effects examples. We saw world effect examples. We saw image target examples. And these are all real examples that are being used today of real brands, real educational institutions building with web AR and distributing to real users today and having real impact, right? So we're at that moment that I think Steve sort of mentioned earlier, where mobile is really, really ready and is being actively adopted by end users and brands for AR. So we'll dive into those platform features. So just to summarize kind of what were the technical elements behind what we just saw. So one thing we saw was world effects, built entirely using standards compliant JavaScript and WebGL. Eighth-wall's simultaneous localization and mapping SLAM engine is hyper optimized for real-time AR on mobile browsers. Its features include 6 degrees of freedom, lighting estimation, instant surface detection, and responsive and absolute scale. So that means world effects is sort of the examples we saw where people were placing objects in the world. It's available where you can place things at real world scale or place them at a dynamic scale, depending on sort of the environment people are in. We also, within our engine, offer Lightship VPS. Lightship VPS uses Niantic's AR map of the world to anchor WebAR content with centimeter level precision at locations worldwide. You can add VPS activated locations to the map or immediately make use of our over 150,000 VPS activated locations to build location-based AR experiences that work in the browser. Lightship VPS also gives access to the 3D mesh of the location, enabling occlusion and physics and a greater level of interactivity between virtual objects and the physical world. And this is a big, big deal in the browser, because in the browser, we don't get access to LiDAR or some of the other sensors that native apps or purpose-built hardware give you. So having this pre-built understanding of the world and getting that mesh for that occlusion is a game changer on the web. We also offer image targets in our engine. So image targets enable you to bring signage, magazines, boxes, bottles, cups, and cans to life. You can manage flat, conical or cylindrical shaped image targets using eighth wall to create web-based augmented reality experiences that are activated by and can track directly to the image target. Image targets can work in tandem with our world tracking, enabling experiences that combine image targets and markerless tracking. We also offer high-quality face effects that utilize the full power of the open web and work everywhere. So you can anchor 3D objects such as glasses or jewelry to a variety of face attachment points, render a face mesh instantly, as we're seeing here, with our easy-to-use component library, or design custom visual effects, shaders, materials, and video. And you can experience this, of course, across all devices, including mobile phones, tablets, desktops, with no app required. And then we also offer a modular camera framework. This basically opens up how our system works to developers who want to bring in sort of their own machine learning or other elements, and they can integrate that into our modular camera framework. If there was any feature that we don't just offer out of the box, you can basically insert yourself into our camera pipeline and create different experiences just based off of that, or using external libraries. So if you wanted to bring in a different form of tracking or something else like that, that's completely possible as well. All of this is built, typically using the eighth wall cloud editor, which is purpose-built for WebAR development. So just like one example of how it's purpose-built for WebAR development is this preview button that you see on the screen here. When you hit that, it gives you a QR code, and you can immediately preview your WebAR project. And then you can make any changes you want, hit save and build, and your preview in your phone hot reloads, and you see that all those changes that you've made reflected immediately, which is very different from like a build system process in Unity or elsewhere, where you have to wait a really long time, right, to get your changes all the way to device and really see that end-to-end workflow. And then on top of this, we've recently updated our cloud editor with modern editing features like IntelliSense, CodePeak, and Command Palette, which make development even faster and easier. So with IntelliSense, just as an example, we're now doing code completion and suggestions to make it even easier to ramp up on how you develop with WebAR, as well as to make sure that you're able to get through your project and develop everything you're looking for without making errors or mistakes that might be common if you didn't have suggestions and code completion. When you're building with our cloud editor, we've really made it turnkey to develop once and deploy everywhere with our metaversal deployment. It automatically makes your web AR content available across smartphones, computers, and AR and VR headsets. So as you can see here, we're taking one scene that was built, and you can see kind of these placing the cactuses or cacti in virtual AR, in mobile AR, and in desktop 3D. And this is due to our spatialized UI conversions. So for example, when you're on mobile, you might have a 2D interface. On 3D, you can just render that as a 2D interface as well. In virtual reality, you need to have some sort of tablet or some sort of system to share 2D information. So that's our spatialized UI. We have interaction mapping. So when you're swiping on a screen in mobile, that might look like a button click or some other action in VR or in AR HMD. Environment mapping. So if you are in mobile AR, there's no virtual environment. But if you're in VR, you now need to have a virtual environment that you can control, and then responsive scale as well. So depending on if you're standing in a virtual environment or sitting on your mobile device, making sure that everything makes sense for the scale of objects, at all times. And just as an example here, we're really focused, given where Steve and the Qualcomm Snapdragon Spaces team is, as well as sort of everything else that we're hearing in the market, we're really focused on optimizing metaversal deployment for web AR pass-through AR HMDs. Sorry, for pass-through AR HMDs. And so just as an example here, you're looking on the left on a MetaQuest Pro with color pass-through. And on the right on a mobile device. And these two devices are running the exact same experience. On the mobile device, you get a 2D UI and you sort of swipe up to throw these rocks into a portal. And on the MetaQuest Pro, you get a 3D text, kind of instruction text, which you can kind of see over the table. It goes quickly. And then you're using the kind of physics of the controller to throw your rocks into these portals as well. So just an example showcasing pass-through AR HMD, especially as we kind of march towards further movement in this market. Okay, that was a lot of platform features. I'm just going to quickly kind of review the community and ecosystem, and then we'll be open for some questions. So 8th Wall has lots of resources to help anyone who's interested in getting started developing on the platform. So on 8thwall.com, there's a support area. In that support area, you'll find our tutorials, as well as other areas where you can learn about 8th Wall, or you can just go to 8thwall.com/tutorials if you want to go directly here. We also have a vibrant Slack community, 6,000 members strong and 120,000 messages sent. And you can join that at 8thwall.com/Slack, or find it as well on 8thwall.com and navigate from the website. So definitely recommend that you join that. And of course, if you're running into any issues as you get onboarded or start using the 8th Wall platform, you can of course reach out to support@8thwall.com. And then we're constantly running community events and opportunities to get involved and learn in a safe environment. So one event that's actually running right now is our SkyFX Challenge. We didn't even talk about SkyFX at all, but SkyFX is a feature in 8th Wall that's running a neural network on device at runtime, where you can get a sky mask and basically have larger than life characters or a mesh or whatever you want in the sky. We're doing a virtual hackathon from March 1st to March 31st. You can learn more at 8th.io/sky challenge. And we're giving away some amazing prizes, including $1,000 US dollars, MetaQuest Pro headsets, as well as meetings with Niantic staff. So feel free to get involved in that challenge if you're interested. Okay, that is it for our prepared remarks, but happy to move into our open Q&A. So I'll toss it back over to Charmaine.
Thanks so much. That was honestly such an eye-opening sharing. It is that time. If you've got questions, please feel free to share them with Joel, and he's clearly very open to questions. So we've got one coming through. Let's wait no longer. Mohammed Iskandar says, do you have a content creator program for creators in Singapore?
So we don't have a specific development community that I know of in Singapore. Of course, all of our events are open to all developers wherever they are in the world. And we often do host events at different time zones just to kind of cover, have some global coverage. But you're absolutely welcome to join any of our virtual events like the virtual Sky Effects Hackathon. And then, Muhammad, if you have interest in creating sort of a developer circle or something in Singapore, absolutely would be happy if you reached out and we can get together to establish something more formal.
And again, if you'd like to reach out, you're welcome to get in touch. If you want to speak to any of the speakers, you can get in touch with the IMDA Pixel team as well. Got a question?
Yeah, and I do, sorry, Charmaine, I just want to add, AWE Asia will be in Singapore, and we'll definitely have members of our team in attendance there.
Awesome. We've got more questions. Steve says, there are some complex models I saw in the tutorials. Does Eighth Wall also facilitate with creating those models, or will need to do something like Unity, Blender?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. So for model creation, Eighth Wall is really the AR engine. So there's sort of two components when you're building a web AR experience. You still need your GL, your graphics engine, your 3D graphics. And so a lot of times people will use A-Frame or 3JS or Babylon.js or Play Canvas, which are all sort of 3D graphics engines for the web. And then the AR engine is what enables the AR experience or VR for metaversal deployment or things like that. So within kind of those two components, you still need to create your models. And typically people, whether it's a 3D artist or if you're an indie dev, would use Blender or Maya or a program like that to create the 3D models.
More questions coming through. I got one from Sam Shuttleworth. Clients are often asking for the ROI. So that stat you shared earlier had that 4x increase in sales. That was interesting. Have you got any other examples that you can share?
Yes, I would direct you, Sam, to eighthwall.com. And I think there's a product tab, if I remember off the top of my head, up top. And if you scroll down, I think you'll see 6 or 8, something like that, fully fleshed out case studies with ROI stats like that.
Awesome. I think everything is on, it sounds like everything is all in one place. More questions coming through. Kang An, hopefully I'm saying your name right. Are there any links between Eighth Wall and ARDK, the Unity framework, or are they just separate frameworks from the ground up? Yeah,
that's a great question. So Eighth Wall and ARDK are both Niantic products. Eighth Wall is the web-based development platform, and ARDK is the app-based development platform. So in sort of that way, they are separate. That being said, there's a lot of underlying intelligence which is shared. So one example of that is Sky Effects for Web is sharing an underlying intelligence that's also used in the ARDK semantic layers. And then Lightship VPS is a shared service that's being used by both ARDK and Eighth Wall. So there's layers of intelligence that are being shared between both, but ultimately they are separate development platforms.
Okay. I think someone's asking for the QR codes for the examples of the brand experiences that you shared. Would that be the website that they can go to?
That might not be the website, though they can be found on our Discovery Hub. You can absolutely look them up here, but I'll also just throw them back up on the screen while we're answering questions so people can have them there too.
Awesome. Okay, one from an anonymous person. Hey, I'm a UX designer, but not very familiar with coding. I'm interested to know more about Eighth Wall tutorials. Prior to starting the tutorials, is there any advice on what coding language I should learn first? Maybe JavaScript, WebGL, perhaps?
Well, first of all, thanks for that question. And what an exciting time to be getting into the space. Steve and I and Charmaine were talking earlier as we were prepping, and we're still so early in this XR journey that we're all on. So there's absolutely this is the time to get involved and establish your leadership in the space, which is amazing. So I'm so jealous that you're like getting started now. That's amazing. And in terms of how to get started specifically for the web, I will call out that web AR is the web, emphasis on web. And so you should get comfortable with web development. And that would be, JavaScript, HTML, and CSS. And then when you are thinking about more complex AR functionality, that's just more complex JavaScript using our AR engine. So JavaScript is amazing, but you definitely want to feel comfortable with the basics of web development.
Sounds good. It is actually a very exciting time. Perhaps a more technical question coming through from Melvin. Is 5G connectivity needed for your web-based AR?
5G connectivity is not needed for web-based AR, though that can also be dependent on the type of content you're creating. So I'll defer back to Steve's question or answer, which was great for this as well, which is if you are planning on streaming a 4K hologram in your web AR experience, you might care a lot about having 5G connectivity. But if you are sort of using HLS, which is like a video encoding that degrades or increases in quality depending on connection speed, that might be fine no matter what sort of connectivity the user has. So it definitely depends on the content that you're producing, but there's no hard requirement to have 5G.
Awesome. I mean, I'm always curious to know what's next. And I know you shared about these 8th wall platform features, lots of cool effects, lots of features. What are you allowed to share in terms of what you're developing and what we can all look forward to next?
Great question. So I'll share just a little bit that's very near term, which is today Sky Effects, which I didn't even talk about that much, just about the hackathon. We launched that December 15th, 2022, so just a few months ago. And today it works similarly to Face Effects, where you can have a Sky Effect experience, but you can't do world tracking simultaneously. Like we mentioned with image targets, where you could do image targets and world tracking. So we are bringing Sky Effects to also work simultaneously with world tracking coming soon. And what that enables is it enables you to have an experience on the ground and launch it up into the sky. It enables you to have an experience in the sky and kind of bring it to the ground like a meteor crashing or whatever else. And then it also enables you just on the web to have things kind of in the distance jump over the horizon. So lots of interesting and cool effects that can really help deepen the immersive storytelling.
That's just so much to look forward to. It's really exciting. And that was going to be my next question, asking you more to tell us more about Sky Effects. And I think that's all the time we have for questions. Thank you so much for answering all of them, Joel. Appreciate it. And again, if you'd like to connect, you can always reach out if you'd like to connect with our speakers, you can reach out to the team at IMDA Pixel. Thank you for your time. Thank you for answering all the questions. Appreciate it. Thank you so much for joining us all the way from Tokyo. And up next, we have Janice Lim from IMDA Pixel to share more about the IMDA innovation and how IMDA can be part of your corporate journey. Janice, the time is all yours.
Thanks, Charmaine. So before we wrap up today's session, I'll just do a very quick sharing on who IMDA Pixel is for those in the audience who may not be familiar with us. So we are a two-story, pretty large innovation space at One North, set up by IMDA, and we bring together technology startups to work on innovative solutions. So we focus on the areas of AR, VR, AI, IoT, as well as 5G. And how we really support the local ecosystem here is one with access to the various labs that we have at our space, the UI UX lab, as well as the AR VR lab. So that's really more that really speaks to some of the startups here who do need access to some of these spaces. The second part is about helping corporates and startups build new solutions. So that's where we work with our panel of consultants who are skilled in the areas of design thinking and UI UX to help them to help corporates actually identify what's AR VR use case for me, how can I proceed if I want to develop a project on it. And the last part is connecting with the ecosystem. So what we're doing today in terms of bringing you the latest technology trends. So we've been here since 2017, so we have built up quite a sizable community of tech players as well as tech partners that we work with. So do feel free to reach out to us if you just want to get a sense of who are some of the local AR/VR players here that can help you, generate ideas for your next AR/VR project. And beyond today's session, we do hold monthly webinars on the latest topics like AR, VR, sustainability. So keep a lookout for that as well. And the last part is beyond the physical innovation space that we are, we also have what we call the open innovation platform. So this is where corporates who are thinking about how they can better their business, how they can address their business challenges. They will put up these kind of statements on the open innovation platform. And we do have over 12,000 tech solvers who respond to these challenges on a quarterly basis. So if you're a corporate and you're thinking about how you can leverage this platform to find an innovative solution, do hop on board our website to check it out. If you are a tech company and you feel like you may be able to address some of these challenges related to data analytics, AR, VR, or even IoT, you can also hop on board the platform to register and submit your proposals for these challenges. And the last part, I guess, is just a summary of for the audience here who are thinking about AR/VR projects. So here's where Pixel and the OIP can step in to help you. So one is in terms of really identifying the project that you want to work on. So we do support with ideation workshops to help people refine their AR/VR use case. The second part is actually kind of like orchestrating or matching startups who want to and who are able to support these AR/VR projects. And the third part is actually if you are diving into developing the project already, do think about Pixel as a place that can help you to develop some of these solutions and also tap on our consultants to improve the usability and experience of these solutions. Yeah, I think that's it for the sharing for IMDA's side. So I will pass the time back over to Charmaine.
Thank you, Janice. We just want to say a big thank you to our speakers as well, Steve Lucas, Joel Edwin, for sharing their experiences with all of us today. And if you want to find out more about the various upcoming programs that IMDA has lined up, you can always scan the QR code. I believe that should be on your screens right now. That would get you on the mailing list to be sure that you're updated with all these events. You can also check out their website and LinkedIn for more updates. And before we end off the session, we always want to improve. We want to make sure we're giving you the best and we give you a better session every single time. So we'd love to hear your feedback. Please scan the QR code on the screen and let us know how the experience has been today. And with that, we're going to be ending the session. Thank you again to all our speakers. Thank you for spending your Wednesday afternoon with us. I'm Charmaine E. Have a wonderful day ahead. Take care, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Have a good one. Bye-bye.